Choice, Missouri. We've been talking a lot about the 10th Amendment, and my executive director is a constitutional attorney, and she's written a pretty comprehensive assessment of why a lot of what we've been saying about the 10th Amendment so far this morning is incorrect. And since I am not an attorney, I would much rather refer you to the information that she's given me. I will make sure that the chair gets it. Constitution, we can handle it. Just what I was saying to Carrie Messer before I came up here, it's really interesting that we seem to have read the same piece of legislation and see it completely differently. The Federal Freedom of Choice Act would not directly overturn all the pieces of state statute that we're talking about. It would send it to the court. It puts up a standard of interference with a woman's right to have an abortion, and if the courts were to find that the particular statute in question has a legitimate interest in health or safety or protecting a viable fetus, or that would stand, if they find that the only purpose of the statute is to interfere with a woman's access to an otherwise legal abortion, it would be struck down. It wouldn't, the day after it passed, throw every law in the books out. And I think that that's just a misconception that needs to be addressed. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Representative Padilla.
Thank you for testifying. So, my question early on in this hearing was what specifically would strike down Missouri laws. So, if I'm hearing what you're saying, it is only those Missouri laws which do not protect the health or safety of the mother, or when the fetus is viable, those are the only laws that would be struck down because they are the laws that really are only there to impede a woman's right. Is that correct?
Right. If it falls soundly within the provisions of Roe, we would imagine would be upheld by the court. That is not. But that is, yeah.
No one knows what the courts will really do.
Nobody knows what the courts will do, but the point is that the Act doesn't throw everything on the books out the window.
Who are the legislators? Them? Or the courts?
Vanessa, what you're saying is that the judges then would be the final arbiter of the science and the medicine?
The judges would be the final arbiter of what laws pass.
Well, but you're saying relative to the health and welfare. So they would be making that final ultimate decision relative to the medical issues involved, social issues involved.
I would imagine so.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Yes. Representative Corcoran.
I just got a question on page 2. It says, FOCA will not make abortion safer, rare, but instead would actively promote and subsidize abortion with state and federal tax dollars. Do you agree with that statement?
I certainly would have a very hard time believing that FOCA would encourage taxpayer funding.
So you don't see any way that FOCA would allow subsidized abortion in any way?
I don't see it.
Huh.
Any other questions? Yes. Representative Griswold.
Mr. Chairman, to inquire?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Ma'am, we've had some earlier testimony that cites at the federal and state level approximately 550 various laws that in one form or another restrict abortion. And it seems what you're saying is that FOCA would disregard the will of those legislatures at the state levels and at the federal level and potentially throw all of those 550 previously passed laws back into the courts. I'd just like you to comment on that. Are you supportive of that process?
It would certainly be our opinion that there are laws on the books that don't need to be there, but I don't think that that's particularly surprising to anybody. And if some laws serve a legitimate health or safety interest and some don't, and that's what the legislation might do.
Other questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Should I just leave the stuff with the...
Yeah, you're going to. Thank you very much. Appreciate you bringing that.